Miami Condo Mondays is a live podcast on the first workday of the week at 4 p.m. South Florida time. The program features former journalist and current Wall Street consultant Peter Zaleski of the Miami Condo Investing Club and former lender and veteran condo broker Jenny Huertas of CVRRealty.com. Recorded weekly in greater downtown Miami, this 1-hour discussion will provide a refreshing and sometimes controversial perspective on the state of the South Florida condo market from a pair of seasoned real estate professionals who do not always agree. The program won't tell you what to think about the South Florida condo market, but will give you something to think about before buying, selling, taking listings, or financing units. This podcast is not authorized by the Miami real estate industry and will quite possibly annoy many of its figureheads. Welcome to this week's episode of Miami Condo Mondays, broadcast live on the social media accounts of Peter Zaleski and Jenny Huertas.
Happy Monday, Miami. This is Miami Condo Mondays. I'm Peter Zaleski. I'm a condo consultant. I'm also the founder of the Miami Condo Investing Club. Check out my website, miamicondo.club. What are we talking about today? We're going to be talking about a new report we just published that shows condo resale prices in Q3. They've dropped 33%. You heard me right. 33%. We're going to get into all those details about that report. Who am I going to discuss it with? My partner, my co-host, Jenny Huertas. She's a broker owner of CVR Realty. Check out her website at cvrrealty.com. Happy Monday, Jenny. How's it going?
Happy Monday. I think we are the only people that say Happy Monday, but here we are.
Well, hey, Monday. We're always bringing news. It's not always good news, but we always have some news for people as either they're winding down their workday, they're stuck in traffic, and or maybe they're on the train riding home if they're over here on the East Coast of the United States. And if they're not on the East Coast of the United States and they're not seeing this live, they should know that I've been able to publish a recording, a copy of this discussion. I've been able to put it up on Tuesday nights. Worst case scenario, it's up on Wednesday. So, if you have to leave or you can't check it all out, just know that you can find it at miamicondo.club. We also put clips on all the social media accounts for myself as well as Jenny Huertas, remember, from CVR Realty. So, happy Monday, Jenny. I love it. We're gonna drill down into some of the data related to Q3, the third quarter of 2025, which is the end of the summer buying season. Remember, Jenny, the summer buying season goes from May through October, effectively the wet season, and then the winter buying season, or the winter, if you will, that's going to be the dry season. That'll go from November through April. So we're kind of in transition right now. We're ending one, and we're starting to get ramped up for what will be the winter, when it is a time of increased tourist numbers. At least it had been. We'll have to see how it goes this year. Increased tourist numbers. You have all kinds of events going on, whether it's Art Basel or the food and wine show or the book fair, all that type of stuff. And then finally, the other reason people come down here is there's a carnival-like atmosphere. In fact, they actually host the Carnival, which is very popular in Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as in New Orleans. But they host it down here in Miami during this winter buying season that we're going into shortly. So, Jen, let me ask you, though, before we get started, the federal government shut down. It shut down October the 1st because the Democrats and Republicans haven't been able to reach some sort of compromise on the budget. Their fiscal year basically runs from October 1st through September the 30th. So now the government is shut. There's been a bunch of stories written about what it means for regular people. But what about in the real estate world? Are you seeing anything? Are you hearing anything? I know there's been some stories published. Could you just kind of give the audience an overview of what you're actually seeing on the ground in greater downtown Miami as we record this podcast?
Well, for Florida, it's especially hard because we have flood insurance. And the flood insurance is going to be issued. And not just people that is buying, they probably can try to sort to private insurance, but it's super expensive. So if you need a mortgage, the bank is not going to give you the funds unless you have the insurances. So could be delays, or they're not definitely issuing anything new. And even for people that owns property here, can be a lapsus where it's not renewal. You happen to renew during this time, you cannot renew your insurance, and you might be out of insurance for a certain period of time, crossing fingers that we don't have any storm. Also for mortgages that are federal backup, like VAs or FHA, it can be delays because the appraisers, it just, we have no idea how a shutdown can affect us, but it's affecting us big time, especially because, for example, they need to get IRS data, for example, for the final part of the loan. They're gonna check your IRS, taxes, or if you are a federal employee and you're in the process to buy, you might be let go. You don't know, neither the bank knows. So it's a lot of uncertainty. If you are a buyer and you are in the process of negotiating, it's a good idea to have a clause with your lawyer where you can escape in case it takes too long and you can get off the contract. So that's something that I would advise to talk to your title company or a lawyer, real estate lawyer, about what are your options and how you would do an addendum on your contract so it protects you.
Oh, interesting, Jenny. Interesting. That, and that's great advice. I would just add on to that, Jenny. Interest rates. We've talked a lot over the course of the last few months about what's going on with the Federal Reserve, which is the central bank of the United States. We talked about Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, and the Fed actually cut interest rates back on the 17th of September. A couple of weeks ago, and once they cut interest rates by 25 basis points, we've actually seen mortgage rates go up. 30-year fixed rate mortgage. I'm looking at it right now. It's actually coming in, according to Mortgage News Daily, coming in at 6.38 the day before Jerome Powell cut. They were coming in at 6.17. So while the Fed is lowering interest rates, what you see going on is the investors, they're actually saying they need more money if they want, if anybody wants to take out a loan, because there's more risk involved. Why is that?
Right.
Because the job market is starting to go sideways. There's some troubling issues out there with the job market. So that's sort of something to keep in mind as well. So if somebody is going out there looking at maybe trying to buy a place, if you're not dealing with this potential government shutdown from that perspective, you also might be actually paying for it in the form of what the the mortgage rates are right now. So it's kind of a tightrope walk, Jenny. And it takes me back, Jenny, to 2005. Let's get in that time machine that I'm always talking about. Let's get in there. We're gonna start it up. Pop the clutch, get it going. The battery ran out, so we'll get it going. So our time machine, we go back 20 years, back to October of 2005. Remember, 20 years ago. We were in a situation much like this in terms of we're winding down the summer buying season, getting ready to go into winter buying season, and a storm comes out of nowhere. You referenced storms and how it might be challenging. Well, that storm that came out of nowhere was called Hurricane Wilma. And some would argue, I would argue as well, that once Wilma came through, it stopped a lot of deals in their tracks. And once those deals stopped, people had time to sort of sit back and think about it. And they did ultimately go back. Many of them did go back and actually close on the deals that they had. And because of that, some would say that was the peak of that run up before ultimately we got into the Great Recession. So anytime deals are flowing, there's like a momentum. It's very popular. If you're a sports fan, if one team's got the momentum and you need to reverse it if you're losing, that type of thing. So, this is something to watch out for because of the transactions that may or may not have been going forward. If it suddenly comes to a stop, are people going to get off the sidelines and get back in the game if they had been pursuing it? Maybe other things change. Maybe interest rates continue to go up. So when you pause, there's always the risk that you cannot get back to where you were. So, Jenny, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. It could be, for example, if you extend a clause because they shut down, you might rethink your price and may you want to renegotiate at the last minute on the table or walk away. So yes, and every time you have a pause in something that is financial or something as important as a real estate purchase, something can happen in the psyche of the person. Say, what if it's too long? What if it's, instead of being, I don't know, a week, it's gonna be a month or two? I mean, the last time we had a shutdown was in 2018. So, we don't tend to think about it because normally they will work it out in one day or even, totally avoid it.
Yeah.
But this time it's happening, and it's been a few days. And now when it gets few days, it might take longer or not. But at least you know your risk, and at least you know what you can do to protect yourself. And in other issues, you can is away from your control. For example, if your insurance happened to be this week, you're not gonna have flood insurance
That's for
until
sure.
if it come back. But in that sense, could affect you. Or if you're a federal employee and they cannot call to the office and say you work there and how much money you make. You might be even be you can be also lose your job during this time. So it's a lot of things that happen when a shutdown is more than getting paid. Is way more than that. It has a huge effect.
Yeah. And, Jenny, I talked about the summer and the winter. The way I kind of say it, remember, winters goes from November through April. Summer goes from May through October. So generally speaking, the way I see it is people come down here for the winter. Maybe they're going to an event. They're coming to see friends. The weather's great. It's cold up north, or maybe it's cold over in Europe, whatever the case would be. They come here because you got Art Basel going on. You got the Miami Book Fair going on. You have the food and wine show. There's a car show, boat show. There's all kinds of stuff going on. So everybody's in town, it seems like, every single weekend. And, they balance between looking for real estate and going to these events. Sometimes they come for the events and then they say, you know what, maybe we should come back because I really like it down here and I might kind of go forward. So, kind of the way I see it is when you're down here, you're kind of window shopping. And then the stuff you like, you try to get under contract sometime, maybe the end of the winter, which remember ends in May. And then typically you're going to close it sometime in the, let's say, the summer. Call it a 4 to 6 month process for the entire search. You got to go look at units. You got to go under contract. You got to get financing typically. So I'm just wondering, as we lead up to winter, are you doing anything different this year than you normally do in anticipation? I mean, you work on both sides of the deal, but you really specialize on the buy side. And it looks like the buy side is going to be very opportunistic going forward, because of the price drops we're starting to see. And that's what we're going to discuss. But before we get into that, Jenny, can you just sort of talk about the winter and maybe somebody who's considering coming down here, what the rules of engagement are, what they ought to be thinking about now while the weather's still okay before it turns bad. And then all of a sudden they can't wait to fly down to South Florida because they're seeing ads running all over the television. They're seeing billboards of palm trees and boats and, manatees and dolphins while up there freezing their tails off. So can you give anybody any kind of insight about that before we go ahead and get into the numbers?
Well, if you are looking to buy something in this market, I don't think that you have the luxury to wait all this time. You need to get ready, because if you find something you like and the price is right, or you can negotiate the price, and you as buyers, brokers, we really study the other side as well to see what the weakness is and if they are or not motivated to sell. So I would say get ready. Get ready like you're gonna buy in 2 weeks. If it's a cash deal, get ready like get your money ready. If you are looking for finance something, talk to your banker or talk to your mortgage broker and get ready as well. Because I think in the opportunistic market, you are competing, especially you have a loan, you're competing with cash buyers. So you need to be ready to go and be able to say in the deal, okay, I know I need the financing, but I'm going to guarantee that I'm going to close this for sure. So it's not going to be 6 months. If something comes up and you like it, be ready. That's my advice.
Well, and to that point, because there's so many buildings down here and so many hundreds of thousands of condos, I often tell people, listen, find buildings you like. And once you find the buildings, then you can kind of drill down and actually find the unit you like. Because remember, there's a bunch of different things involved with living in a condo, whether it's the maintenance fees, whether it's the rules, whether or not, you can have a dog. How heavy can that dog be? It can get very complicated. Right. So I would just say that 6 month process, you're going to spend some time figuring out the buildings you like and what you dislike. But if it is something maybe you want to do, you probably want to get ahead of the curve, because if you know you're going to be coming down here and it's something that's on the, on the list of things to do, it's probably the right time to start thinking about it as that weather starts to change and maybe the leaves start to change depending on where you are in, the Northern Hemisphere. If you're down here in South Florida, you still got a window before everybody arrives to sort of go out there and kick the tires. Realtors, at least from what I've seen on the south side, they're cooperative. When the market gets hot, good luck getting them on the phone. They get all confident about themselves and what they have because, they know they got the whole winter to try to move a product. So these are just some of the dynamics I'd recommend the people.
Well, it is very unpredictable. You can find somebody that is really good, like the selling agent, and they want to move their listings to get another one. And some of them are sitting because they negotiate with the seller in the wrong way. And he say, no, I'm not in the rush. I'm going to put it in the market, but I'm not motivated. So since I'm not motivated, I'm going to give you this listing for 6 months. So it's just so, or the building start doing some work. Like I saw a building that a client really liked. And when we were looking at it, it looks really good. And then sure enough, 2 months later, start a huge renovation job. So let's move away from that building. So in this market or in this, where we have so many units and so many buildings, yes, it is important to take the time. But I would say take the time of doing all this research before you come and look. Just don't do the opposite. Don't come and look and then come back to it. My advice would be get ready in paper first. And then when you go to see is when you're going to be more like you're going to know more exactly what you're looking for.
Now, Jenny, I have my, we have our monthly meeting of the Miami Condo Investing Club. I do a monthly meeting always on the second Wednesday of every month. I do it from 12 noon Miami time until about 1:15 or so. And I was doing research in anticipation of that meeting, put together some of the stuff. And I found some real interesting events that were occurring. And that's why I put out yesterday's newsletter. If anybody wants to sign up for the newsletter, been putting out since 2007. Go to miamicondo.club. But anyways, I found some interesting stuff from the newsletter or for the newsletter, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. We're going to be discussing about how prices are falling. And one actually got me to the point where prices are falling. Granted, it's the end of the quarter, but it had nothing to do with that as to how I came upon it. What it had to do was our index. We started an index on January the 1st of 2025. We call it the Miami Condo Association Financial Cliff Index. And what it basically is meant to represent is all the changes that kicked in and went into place beginning in 2025 as a result of changes to the Florida condo law that happened after the Surfside condo collapse back in June of 2021, where nearly 100 people died and $1 billion was paid out to the families of the victims. So we created this index, and every Tuesday we pull numbers. Why? Because deals are done over the weekend or they go into contract over the weekend, and therefore typically by Tuesday it's all updated. So we're pulling numbers week in and week out for 23 different markets from South Florida all the way. It is like the umbrella. And then as you drill down, you're going to get the 3 counties. And then we got 19 additional markets that we track everywhere from Coral Gables, Coconut Grove, and Miami-Dade County, all the way up to West Palm Beach and Palm Beach Island, where President Trump has his Mar-a-Lago. So we're looking at all of these markets, trying to get a sense of what's going on. And the idea of the index is to give you real-time idea what's happening. Why? Because we're pulling active listings and pending sales. It tells you what you can expect in the future from closed sales. Now, remember, closed sales, it could be 30, 60, 90 days later that, or even 120 days later that you actually get the numbers. Why is that? Because the realtor associations that put up this information, typically there's a lag time from the end of the quarter up until the numbers are released. So in looking at our index for the end of Q3, third quarter, I found some interesting stuff. And let me just share with you, and this is something I'm going to get into at our meeting on Wednesday. And if you want to become a member to participate in the meeting, go to miamicondo.club. You'll see club, and then you can look up information there. So, Jenny, first time we're doing it, let's see how it goes, okay? So I'm pulling up this chart. Oh, there we go. You can see it.
Yeah.
You can see it nice. This is the overall condo market in South Florida. This is Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County. This is East. This is West. This is everything. This is expensive. This is vintage. In our mind, vintage is 30 years or more. So what you're looking at right now is the way the market has reacted. This is real-time information that leads ultimately to sales numbers. Why? Because you got active listings and you got pending sales. Ideally, they kind of move in lockstep. If one is going up and the other one's not, it could be good or bad. If pending sales are going up and listings are going down, that means it's a stronger market. If pending sales are going down and listings are going up, that means it's a worse market if you are a buyer. All this is effectively from a buyer perspective, if you will. So if you go ahead and you